of heaven and hell are frequencies. If you made it this far, then congratulations. That means that the information I am putting in these videos is resonating with you in some way, form, or fashion. And I do want to say thank you for supporting this video as well as my channel. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you for watching. Okay, so if you look at these sine waves, you'll know that the more times that it's multiplied, the faster the wave cycles, and the faster the waves, the higher the frequency. The higher the frequency, the more in tune you are with your higher self. You'll see back in Psalms, where I read before in chapter 51, verse 5, it says, "Behold, I was shapen in iniquity." So that iniquity means he was shapen in a world of wickedness, of disharmony, discord. And the goal here is to become back in balance and in harmony with the rest of the world, because all of nature plays a song and we are out of tune with that song. Why are we out of tune? Because there's interference patterns. We're not able to be that infinite song. We're broken up in fragments. If you are electromagnetic in nature, so are the stars. These are the notes that are playing and having the sound of the angels. The Schumann resonance is a cavity of sound approximately 60 miles above the earth that resonate between 6 to 8 hertz. This cycle matches our alpha wave pattern, which is what keeps us connected to the source, nature. The source of this resonance is our proof of higher dimensions, which is why it's not taught in schools. Resonance is also the source of electricity, which is the friction between copper and carbon, as Dr. Sebi often stressed. This generation of energy from sound is what cells detect on a molecular level, and it allows them to regenerate or generate a magnetic field around our entire organism. The air is magnetized to allow the sound to create form, which we call light. This phenomenon is known as sonoluminescence, which is when a bubble of gas is suspended in a liquid, such as water, but it's driven by an ultrasonic frequency. And when that frequency collapses the bubble of air, it forms light, which is what we see in the heavens and we call stars. So you see, the sound that produces electric stars is the same sound that produces electric bodies, which is the revelation behind the late Dr. Sebi's life research and work. When the mind has been taught to associate sound to only one of 5 senses, hearing, it limits your ability to see the full potential and the full color spectrum. Today, our music is tuned to an unnatural harmonic frequency, 440 hertz, and it is evident all around us. The golden ratio designs in ancient temples are literally giant tuning forks. They are aligned with the stars in the sky to replicate or regenerate the sound that is missing on Earth to raise its vibration. Ancients knew this day would come. The augmented DNA, or the denaturing of food, water, air, and other elements, have also removed us from being in tune with nature. The music in our society heavily dictates our frequency and behavior. We are no longer in rhythm with nature. So the Earth does have an electromagnetic field. And if you've ever studied quantum physics, then you realize that anytime there's an interference pattern, that means that a world of infinite possibilities become finite, because an interference pattern, it blocks that wave from being infinite. It breaks it up into fragments, and when things are broken up, they become manifest and they become solid into our reality. So we have fallen we're falling in frequency, and that's what the fallen angels means. Just basically that we went from such a high, fast frequency down to a low, slow frequency where we become solid and kind of like stagnant. When it comes to language, A, E, I, O, and U are laws. They are vowels, or what we call vowels. Consonants and vowels dictate breathing patterns when you speak. Vowels break up consonants and restrict airflow from the lungs, thus robbing you of spirit or life. In Latin, vowel means votum, to neuter or neutral. In physics, it means demagnetized, no electric charge whatsoever. This is how you fall in frequency. Consonant in Latin translates to consonare. Its origin in the dictionary means to sound with or together. It's produced without obstructing the air from the lungs, which creates a continuous sound, a melody. That's why some languages sound like people are singing. It's also why we can't understand how to read language that doesn't have a lot of vowels in it. It is constant or regenerative. Babylon, or in Latin, Babylonum, is what the fall represents when it is referred to breaking up the language or separating the language. It was the sound that was constructing the tower to heaven. The people spoke as one before they were made to speak languages that were low in frequency, and hence, the root word of Babylon is baby. The language sound can elevate or lower your sine wave. Actually, if you look at dolor, Dolor, in Latin that means pain. It means grief, misery, and suffering. You have many people that worship this symbol, the dollar, and it's pronounced the same way as Dollar, dollar. It's pronounced the same way. It's a frequency, it's a sound. And remember that the power is in the word, the power is in the sound. That's why it's so important what you say to yourself and what you speak to yourself. Not necessarily what other people say, but what you agree to. Because agreeing to what they say, it collapses the wave function and it makes it real. It makes it your reality. You want to stay infinite. You want to stay in the fluctuation of a high wave function, like a gamma wave. Like you want to get to that point. That's the most powerful wave that we know of in the universe. What is something else that we say is the most powerful force known to man, but not in the form of waves? We speak of it as a feeling. Love. Love is operating on the frequency of gamma, of that high vibration. This takes us into understanding that the sun is what is resonating all of these different wave functions. That is the source of all of it. I'm going to take you into an area that my studies have taken me about understanding more about the sun, because I've been getting a lot of messages here lately of things just coming in, and it helps me put things together. I'm a jigsaw puzzle worker. My great grandmothers taught me how to put jigsaw puzzles together when I was young, and I do it for fun. And I realized that there are people in this world that have different gifts, and that's putting things together. And I tend to do that with information like people do with jigsaw puzzles. And so one of the things that I was putting together was when I've had these dreams about traveling around the zodiac with the sun. I noticed that back in Egyptian times, they did worship multiple gods. And these gods were not just gods from, like, different planets or anything like that. These gods were representations of ourselves. If you actually look at the gods, they have shapes, certain shapes. And these shapes look like parts of our brains, parts of our bodies that have formed these images, and they represent different frequencies. And then I think it was Akhenaten that came and he changed the worship from multiple gods to one God. And he was trying to get everybody back on the same frequency, because he knew that if everybody together had this thought of love and had this thought of compassion, then a lot of the different atrocities that went on during that time would be diminished greatly. So this was a person who understood frequency and understood that the sun is giving out this frequency. It's almost like a TV. Your brain is like that TV. Actually, TV is designed after the brain, because everything is designed after the human body. That's very relevant to how things work here. So he knew that if he got everybody on the same channel, that he could change the whole world. And that's what we've been trying to do from day one. So people take worshiping God literally instead of understanding the background of it and the spiritual nature of it, because you're more than just a physical being. You have to tap into that other side of you that's sort of trapped. And if you look at that dollar sign and you worship that dollar sign, then it's actually keeping you trapped, because that's not where real currency comes from. And even in Latin, the word sign means without. That means you're going without instead of within. If you look for things that are without or outside of you, then you'll never discover the treasures that are within. You'll never hear the music. And this is something that people worship. It is worshiping the God of that frequency to be without. But when you start worshiping the different frequency that vibrates higher than that sine wave, then you rise up out of hell. You rise up out of the sin or the sign, and you become one with a different frequency, one that is more on the vibration of love. And this is how you can change and morph and transform into the higher, more enlightened nature of yourself.